You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarvin, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of That Music Podcast, where it's going to be a little less formal than the other episodes. I'm basically going to share how my month has gone. These monthly check-ins, we're going to be pretty informal, pretty kind of off the cuff, and it's really just going to kind of see where we're at, where we've been and where like the last couple weeks have been. If you've been following That Music Teacher for a while, you might remember the old school midweek check-ins we used to do. They are actually one of the precursors of the podcast. I would go live on Instagram every Wednesday night and just kind of share how my week went and kind of hear how your week went. And then it eventually turned to the podcast whole thing. But that's kind of what this is going to be. So this is the first time I've ever recorded one of these episodes, and it's also the first one since the beginning of the year. So I want to talk about the beginning of my year. So the beginning of my year, I'll be honest, this has been one of the easiest beginning of the years that I've ever had. I mean, thinking about last year, we unfortunately we didn't have a contract last year when we started. We were very close to striking. And it was just a lot. You know, I was in the negotiations team, so like we were constantly being pulled into this, that, and the other thing. I was the vice president of the union. So like it was really busy last year. Last year, the beginning of the year was absolute chaos. And then the 2 years before that was COVID, right? And everything was changing it felt like minute to minute. So I'm really enjoying the beginning of this year because I basically just teaching. Yes, I'm running That Music Teacher, but for a couple of reasons. Like one, I brought, I'm giving more to my team, so I'm doing a little bit less and working more on the things that are like kind of in my zone of genius. And also I'm not teaching piano lessons this year, which I absolutely loved, but it was a lot. It was just too much. So I'm having a great year. And there's a few things that I've been able to kind of gain some perspective on because I'm not working constantly. You know, I'm not doing 1,000 jobs. I'm not doing this, that, and the other thing. I'm primarily just teaching. And I'm really kind of been able to take a step back and look at my curriculum. And one thing I noticed is my curriculum maps need some work. There's things that I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not how I should teach this. This is not the greatest way. We're going to need some work in getting that better. So that's kind of one of my tasks this year is to take a look at some of my curriculum maps and just get them better where they are and kind of get them more accurate to what I'm actually doing instead of kind of what I created in grad school, kind of abstractly, not really knowing what would come next. So that's my big thing is that I've realized now that I have a little bit more time to kind of explore with my lesson planning. But on top of that, I've realized that my experiment that I did a few years back with really focusing on handwriting my lesson plans and working on transitions has really changed my life. It's something that I will continue doing forever, and it's something that I talked about it probably ad nauseum in these in episodes about how transitions have changed my teaching. But it's been especially with this year's kindergarten class because I don't know this kindergarten class. I love teaching kindergarten, but after 40 minutes, I'm spent. You know, I don't have anything left to give. Granted, it is the last thing that I teach, so it kind of makes sense that the last period that I teach would be a little bit exhausted. But with that being said, this particular class there's just a lot. We have one, it's the biggest class that I've had for kindergarten in a while. There are 24 kindergartners in each class, which goodness, that's a lot. We have a lot of students in this kindergarten class that are English learners. So that adds another little level of complexity to it. And they're really testing my classroom management skills. I'll tell you what. But I'm finally getting to the point now where like, all right, I at least know their names enough so I can keep them involved and things like that, and kind of know who they are and like what they need from me to help them be successful. So we've been doing a lot better the last few lessons. But let me tell you, the beginning of the year, it was like they would leave and I would just be sitting at my desk going, what just happened? I don't know about you if your kindergarten's like that, but my kindergarten this year is really taking me, giving me the run for my money. Another thing that I really I noticed this year and kind of being able to take a step back and look at it is I am really happy where I'm at. And, I'm not sharing this to say, haha, I love what I do. And might be in a situation that's not great, but what I want to say that is that there are opportunities for you to feel like you are part of the team. I might have had to force my way in for people to realize that I'm not just a music teacher. I am a teacher who teaches music, and I am part of this educational team. But I'm finally feeling confident in my role, where in my school setting, I've kind of built myself as this person who isn't just there to teach music. I'm someone here that wants to teach students, and I just happen to teach music. And I'm so thankful that I have wonderful administrators. I have wonderful other teachers, that are my peers and my friends that really help me be the best that I can be. Because let's be honest, the people that you're surrounding yourself with at school, that's going to make a huge difference in your job. You can have the worst job in the world, but have supportive peers and supportive, teachers and administration. And then the opposite way, you could have the perfect schedule, and things like that, but then have administrators that don't support you and have other teachers that don't believe in you. And that's really the frustrating part. So, I hope that you can find something where you feel like you're a part of that community rather than just kind of privy to that community. Like I said, these chats are really not going to have much of a flow or an outline. I'm really just kind of talking from the heart. But I have, for a lot of reasons, I really feel like this year is kind of going to be the year for me. First of all, we've been doing a lot of balancing with my antidepressants over the past few years, and I feel like we've finally come to something where I feel we have the right combination. And I've always been very open about my mental health journey, because I think it's important for us to be open about it. And I think it's important for, if we have, basically be important to share that teachers are human, and that mental illness is just that. It's an illness. It's fine. It's something that happens. We don't need to hide it. We don't have to pretend it doesn't happen. It's not this terrible thing that's going to, absorb you if someone else knows that it afflicts you. So I want to be really open about it. So I finally feel like I'm in a place where my antidepressants and the medicine that I take for my ADHD is finally right in the same place. It's we found it all, we figured it all out, and I found all right, I can actually do things. I have executive functioning skills. I can actually make things happen. In addition to that, another thing that happened over the summer is I got licensed as a foster parent, and I've gotten a few calls so far so far this year, and nothing has panned out. I've said yes a couple times, but they went with different placement or went with kinship or whatever. But I just feel even in those moments, yes, I would have loved to have been able to welcome a child in my home. But I just feel whatever is best is going to happen. Whatever it is time for a child to come into my home for however long they're going to be there, it's going to happen. And that's not how Bryson would have looked at things a while ago. And I think that I'm finally getting to the point where I was driving the other day and I'm thinking, is this wisdom? Is Bryson getting wisdom? Cool. I love it. So I'm sharing this not because one, it's kind of a potpourri episode. We're all over the place. But I just kind of wanted to, this is really what this episode is. We're kind of checking in. But also I want to hear from you. I want to hear how your month has been. I want to hear how your beginning of the school year has gone. Please send us an Instagram message, or send me an Instagram message over at That Music Teacher. I would love to hear how your year is going. Feel free to send a voice message. I love replying to voice messages. They're my favorite. I love talking, as you can tell. But yeah, this episode is going to be really, these type of episodes are going to be kind of, not hopefully a little bit more focused. And today it's been a little bit of a wild week. But I am really excited to continue these podcasts, continue to see what happens the rest of this year. And honestly, I'm really excited to see what is going down in the rest of the year inside That Music Teacher community, because I've had an absolute blast inside the community, getting to lead the master classes. And I'm really excited to see where we can take the community in the rest of the year. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of That Music Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, it would mean the world for us if you were to leave a review wherever you're listening. Remember, new episodes come out every Wednesday, so make sure that your calendars are marked so that you get ready for some engaging discussions about music education. And if you haven't already, please consider joining us inside That Music Teacher community, where you'll get early access to exclusive podcast episodes, as well as a lot of other bonus perks, including masterclasses every month and resource packs to help you really take some new steps in music education. For show notes, links, and more ways to stay connected, be sure to check out the episode description or in the show notes as well. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week.